Today we're going to talk about volume. So the first one we're going to look at is the volume of a prism. So the volume of the prism is equal to the base times the height. So B equals the area of the base and H is equal to the height of the prism. And so this looks like a rectangular prism. And we also know, remember, that volume equals length times width times height. So it's the same thing because the base, you get your length and your width, and then we have the height. So it's the same formula we've used before. The volume of this cylinder is the same idea. The volume equals the base times the height. So now if you look over here, the base, the difference is that the base is a circle. So B is the area of the base, which is a circle. So we have to remember how to find the area of a circle. So remember the area of a circle is pi r squared. And of course, h is equal to the height of the cylinder. So that means that the volume is equal to pi r squared times h. And so that would be our r, and this would be our h. And up here we had our length times the width times the height. So it says to find the volume of each solid. So here, this is a rectangular prism. So the volume is, as we said, is the base times the height. So the area of the base is 4 times 2. And the height is 1.5. So when we multiply all that, we get 12. And remember, because we're talking about volume, it would be 12, in this case, meters cubed. Whenever you're doing volume, we're cubing, it's cubic meters. So for this next one, we have a cylinder. So the volume is going to be equal to, we have to find the area of the base. So notice that this 10 is in the middle. Anytime they put the number like right in the middle where the radius is, that means that stands for the diameter. So the diameter is equal to 10 inches, which means we want the radius, which is 5 inches. So the volume is equal to the area of the base, which is pi r squared for a circle. So pi times 5 squared, and we want to multiply it by the height. So the height in this case is 16 inches. So multiply that by 16. And I'm going to write my answer in the exact answer form and then also write it as a decimal. So in this case, we get the volume's equal to 25, because that's 5 squared times 16 gives us 400. So 400 pi cubic inches would be the exact volume. And if we wanted to do the estimate, we could use our calculator. So remember, in our calculator, we plug this in, we have 400 and then second. And you can use this above the division key is the caret key. And if you hit that, that gives you pi. So this is about 1,256.64 cubic inches. So we'll go ahead and write both the exact and the decimal approximation. So now if we look at the next one, now notice this is a prism, but the base is not rectangular. Now the base is a triangle. So now we have to figure out how to find the area of this. So we'll note that volume equals the base times the height for a prism, but again, the base is a triangle. And so in this case, remember then how do you find the area of a triangle? So the area of a triangle is equal to 1/2 the base times the height. So in this case, if we look at our triangle, notice it's a right triangle. This is 7 and this is 10. So in this case, the base would be 7 and the height would be 10. So the area of the triangle is equal to 1/2 7 times 10. And so that gives us 70 divided by 2, which is 35. So the volume of this prism would be the area of the base, which we just said is 35, times the height. So that h equals the height, which is 5 inches. So this gives us the volume is equal to 175 cubic inches. Okay, so remember when you're doing area, it's squared. So like if I had the area of the triangle here, I should write this is inches squared. But when we do volume, again, it's cubic. So then looking at number 4, this is again a cylinder. And so for this one, again, we know volume equals the area of the base times the height. And the base is a circle. So that tells us then the volume is equal to, remember the area of the circle is pi r squared. So pi times, and then this is saying that again, looks like the diameter is 10. So that means then if the diameter is equal to 10, the radius would be equal to 5. So this would be 5 squared. So pi r squared times the height, which is in this case 15. It's just on its side here. So that gives us 375 pi cubic inches. And then we want to figure out the rounded answer. So 375 seconds. And the caret key gives me the pi. So this is about 1,178.097. So we could say 10 cubic inches. So those were for the volumes of cylinders and for a prism. And again, for the prism, you just have to look at, well, what is the base? In this case, this one was rectangular, this one was triangular. So you have to figure out how do you find the area of that base then. So something that's a rectangle, the area is length times width, where down here, the area of the base is triangular, which we know the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. All right, so next we're going to look at the volume of a pyramid. So the pyramid, draw a picture here. We have the base, and then the height of the pyramid would be here, and that would make a right angle. It's not a very good picture, so that's the height. So the volume of a pyramid is equal to 1/3 the base times the height. And we'll show a video in class of why it's 1/3. But so 1/3 the base times the height. And so then for this, it just depends on what your base is. Because again, notice that when you have a pyramid, it doesn't just go straight up. And so we have to take into account that we're not taking like a prism, taking that shape and going up with the heights. It goes to a point, which is why we have the 1/3. And the volume of a cone, so cone has a circular base, and goes up. So this is the height, and this would be the radius. And the volume of the cone is equal to 1/3 the base times the height as well, but the base is a circular shape, so that would be pi r squared times h. But remember, it's still the same idea, 1/3 the base times the height. It's just that the base is a circle now, and this base, you can use a square here, so this base for the square would be length times the width. So it just depends on what that base looks like. Oops. So looking at this first one, the base in this one is a triangle. So we have the base equals 1/2, and since it's a triangle, so I'm going to draw that triangle just to get a better picture of it. So for the base, you can see the right angles there. This is 4, this is 6. So the base is 4 and the height is 6. So that would give me the area of the triangle. So that gives us 12 for the base. And so the volume equals 1/3 the base, which is 12, times the height of the pyramid, which is 9. So that gives us a volume equal to 36 cubic meters. And this would be for the area. Remember, the area is just squared, so this would be meters squared. Over here, we have a cone. So again, volume equals base times the height. So, or 1/3 the base times the height, I should say. So this volume is equal to 1/3. The base is circular, so area of a circle is pi r squared. So pi times 7 squared times the height, which is 25. And so for this one, we have 7 squared, which is 49, and we're multiplying that by 25. So that's in my numerator, because that would be times the 1, because remember this is all over 1. So the volume equals 1,225 pi divided by 3. So if we divide this by 3, notice that I get this decimal, and if I try to hit the math fraction key, it gives me what I had before, so it doesn't reduce at all. It's a good, easy way to see if it reduces. Notice I just didn't put the pi in there. So this is the exact volume in cubic feet. And then if we want the decimal approximation, then we would need to put the pi in, so 1,225 pi, and then divide that by 3. So that gives us about 1,282.82 cubic feet. All right, so looking at the next one. So now we have the volume of this figure here, which looks like the volume of a pyramid, which is on top, plus the volume of a prism, which is the volume of a cube. So we're going to add the two together to find the total. So let's do the volume of the pyramid, which is 1/3 the base times the height. And so in this case, we get the volume of the pyramid is equal to 1/3. The base, notice, is 6 and 6 here. So that means it's a square. So the volume would be, the base would be 6 times 6 times the height, which is also 6. So the volume of the pyramid is equal to 6 times 6 times 6 would be 216 times 1/3 is 72 cubic meters. Then we want the volume of the prism or cube in this case, which we know the volume of the cube would be the area of the base times the height, so length times width times height. So again, 6 times 6 times 6, which is 216 cubic meters. And so the total volume, we would add the volume of the pyramid plus the volume of the cone. So the volume total is equal to 72 plus 216, which gives us 288 cubic meters. For this one over here, looks like we have the volume of a cylinder plus the volume of cone. So the volume of a cylinder, remember, is 1/3, again, the base times the height. So the base is circular, so that's pi r squared. So the volume of the cylinder is equal to 1/3. The base would be, again, pi r squared, and our r is 9. So pi times 9 squared times the height, which looks like which it looks like we were not given the height here. So the height's right here, and we're given this length is 15. So if we want to figure out the height, we can draw a triangle. And this is 9, and this is 15, and we can solve for the height. So that would be using the Pythagorean theorem. So we get h squared plus 9 squared equals 15 squared. And so in this case, if you use your calculator, we get 15 squared, and notice we have to subtract the 9 to the other side, the 9 squared. So 81. So 15 squared minus 9 squared gives us 144. And so, of course, if you take the square root of 144, you're going to get 12, but if you need to use your calculator, you can. So you get h is equal to 12. So we're going to use this as 12. So the volume then of the cone, we have 9 squared, which is 81, times the 12 in the numerator. So the volume of the cone equals 972 pi over 3, and this is meters cubed or cubic meters. So 972 divided by 3 gives us 324. So the volume of the cone equals 324 pi cubic meters. So we're going to leave the volume as exact for right now. And then we want to find the volume of the cylinder. Which the volume of the cylinder is, again, remember the base times the height. So the base is circular, so pi r squared is the area of the base. So we get the volume of the cylinder is equal to pi times 9 squared times 25. So 9 squared, we know is 81 times 25 gives us 2025 pi. And that's again cubic meters. So the total volume would be equal to 324 pi plus 2025 pi, and these are like terms, so we can just add the 2025 plus the 324, which gives us 2,349 pi cubic meters. And if we want the decimal approximation, we would take that answer and multiply that by the pi. So that is about 7,379.60 cubic meters. That one was just a slightly different because we had to find the height of the triangle first because we were given this side here and this side here. Okay, so let's go to the next part. So we want the volume of a sphere. So the volume of a sphere is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. So let's see if we can draw a picture over here. This is our r. And again, we can show a video in class of why that is. So looking at this one, it says we want to find the surface area and volume of each figure. So we're going to skip the surface area. We're just going to find the volume. So if I want to find the volume is equal to, again, 4/3 pi r cubed. So in this case, r is 4, so volume equals 4/3 pi times 4 cubed. And then you just have to simplify. So if we get our calculator, we have 4 cubed. And remember, this is all over 1, so that's all in the numerator, times 4. I'm going to leave pi in my answer. So we have in our numerator, the volume equals 256 pi divided by an inner denominator. 3 times 1 is 3. So if we divide 256 by 3, we get this decimal, and if we try to see if we can simplify it by hitting the math fraction key, it doesn't simplify. So this would be cubic feet. And if we want the decimal approximation, so 256 pi, and then divide that by 3. So we get the volume is about 268.08 cubic feet. So for this one over here, again, notice that the 18.3 is in the middle right there. So that means they're using that for the diameter when that happens. So remember that the radius is going to be half of that. So 18.3 divided by 2 gives us 9.15. So the radius equals 9.15 meters. So the volume equals 4/3 pi times 9.15 cubed. So we have in the numerator 9.15 cubed, and then we're going to multiply that by 4, and then we're going to divide that by 3, and see if we can write this as a fraction. If not, that's okay, yeah. So let's go back and do just with the pi then. So we have 9.15 cubed times the pi times 4. So putting that in the exponent, so times the pi times the 4 in the numerator, and all of that's being divided by 3. So we get the volume is about 3,208.87 cubic meters. All right, we got one last one to go. So looking at this last one, we have the volume of a cone, or sorry, not a cone, the volume of a cylinder. The volume of a cylinder. We want to add that to the volume of, and whenever you have half of a sphere, it's called a hemisphere. So that's half of a circle. Better, so half a circle. Or I should say half a sphere, not circle. So half of a sphere is a hemisphere. So the volume of the cylinder is equal to the area of the base times the height. So the base is a circle, so pi r squared times the height. So this gives us pi r is 5.8 feet, so 5.8 squared times the height, which is 14. So in our calculators, we get 5.8 squared times 14. So this would give us 470.96 pi. So since it's already a decimal, let's just go ahead and we'll just write this as a decimal approximation. So we're going to times that answer by pi. So this gives us 1,479.56. And that's look at label was cubic feet. And the volume of the hemisphere is equal to half of the sphere. So remember that's 4/3 pi r cubed. And we're going to divide that answer by 2, which is the same thing as multiplying it by 1/2. So we get 4/3, and I'm just going to put the 1/2 in front to make it a little bit easier. Same thing. So 4/3 pi, and r in this case is 5.8 cubed. So in my calculator, I'm just going to type this all in. So I have, and you can do the 1/2 now or later, but just to show you. So we have 0.5 times, we use double parentheses, 4/3, put the fraction in parentheses, and then we have times pi, and then times 5.8 cubed. Close that parentheses. So that gives us about 408.64. cubic feet. And so just to show you, even if I did it with the dividing by 2, it's just going to be the same answer. So 4 divided by 3 times pi times 5.8 to the third, and then if you divide that by 2, you notice you get the same thing. I just want to show you. So then the total volume would be adding these two together. So 1479.56 plus 408.64. So 1479.56 plus 408.64 gives us a volume total of about 1,888.20 cubic feet. And that is it for the volume.